In this video, we'll discuss the features on Charles Manson's face that pointed to emotional volatility, a strong will, and a persuasive nature. Enjoy. Welcome back, everyone. For today's face reading, we are looking at Charles Manson. A number of subscribers have asked over the years, actually, for me to read him, so I'm going to jump in and read his face. Before we do that, if you are new to my channel, welcome, but please go up here and watch the 5-minute crash course face reading video on face reading. That'll help you understand what face reading is and isn't. But moreover, face reading is a branch of Chinese medicine, and there are some terms and terminology that I'll use in this video that if you don't watch that, you'll probably be a bit lost or at least unfamiliar. So again, please go watch that. I don't have a ton of time today. I've got a pool party to go to with my daughter. We've got a bunch of stuff to do, so I still want to get a video out, but this probably won't be as long as I normally do for my face reading videos. So let's talk about his eyes first. There's something slightly deranged and crazy about Charles Manson's eyes. When people would look into Charles Manson's eyes in interviews, people would say it. There's something about his eyes that made people very uneasy. So there's something kind of squinty, penetrating, and dead about the eyes, but they're also highly animated. There's sort of a mischief in there that is unsettling. So that's one. He also carried what they called yang sanpaku. So for a quick review, if you want to go watch what sanpaku is, you can go up here and check that video out. That's pretty important. But what it refers to is the 3 whites. When a person's head is level, there's 2 whites on the sides that we can see. Those are the 2 whites. The second the head goes down, the 3rd white at the bottom can be seen. And if a person does this, that upper white can be seen. That's also sanpaku. But when the upper white shows, that's yang sanpaku. The lower one is yin sanpaku. When a person's head is level, or they just routinely sit like this, like Princess Diana, who's a person who constantly had yin sanpaku, this means the yin energy leaks and out of the person. We want to conserve yin and yang. We need these forces to live. So yin sanpaku is where the yin energy, the passive energy, the life-depleting metrics of sanpaku are administered a bit slower. When the eyes are like this and they tilt up, too much yang is coming out of the spirit. So the eyes are the gateway to the portal, and the portal to the spirit of a person. So when we see that, that means too much yang is coming out, but it's also associated with volatility in the personality. This is a person who is unpredictable, who can be very wily in their expression, and oftentimes can be kind of dangerous. So his eyes definitely are unsettling. There's something in there that doesn't sit well, at least for me, and given what we know about him, probably for good reason. Since we're up there, let's talk about his eyebrows. Very dominant. These are related to the wood element. The bigger and the bushier the eyebrows are, it has more to do with the outward expression of the wood element. How much of the wood element is seen and given into the world. Now, keep in mind, the wood element and the liver system regulates anger, hostility, rage, and frustration. So, again, given what we know about Charles Manson, there's something to be said for that, given those eyebrows. The positive side of that is kindness and compassion for the eyebrows when they're big and bushy like that. And the reason I mention that is because you can't look at bushy eyebrows and think, well, a person is going to be angry and hostile to the world. They might be very kind and compassionate as well, but those are typically the metrics that go with that. He's also got a surplus of hair here, what they call the unibrow. I'm not sure if he shaved it or if that's just how it came in naturally, but that's a surplus of those metrics. That means even extra wood energy going out into the world. I don't know when he did this. It was years back, but he also had a swastika tattooed right here over what they call the middle eye or the 3rd eye. The thinking with the 3rd eye in the Eastern philosophy is that the left and right hemispheres of the brain, or the yin and yang side of the spirit, when those things merge well and they're balanced, we can actually see through that middle eye. It's where we have a really good understanding of logic and intuition, and they merge and there's a harmony there. He decided to put a swastika there. That's crazy. Whether he knew the association or not, I don't know. But if we think about tattoos, we think about facial hair, we think about external augmentation, these are all symbolic markers for inner personality expression. So the fact that he put that there, given the associations with that symbol, not a good sign in my book. Definitely not auspicious. Something that I would highly advise against for any person. So, since we're up there talking about wood, let's also talk about the wood down here. He's got a strong jaw. The jaw relates to the battery of wood, how much power is in the wood system and how much the person can go, how much lasting power they have. That's, given his life terrain, these are things that were not great. This means like a person who's got a lot of grit and determination in what they're doing. So again, spooky when you think about Charles Manson's life terrain. He's also got, right here, when we're talking about his jaw, he's got a really dominant chin. So you can see in this picture right here, he's got this nice pointy chin. Okay, there's a dominance there. It protrudes a bit, and it's got the divot right here. So with a strong chin, that relates to the water element, and the water element in the kidney system regulates willpower. So we're also seeing a person with very strong will in terms of how much will they can push out, but also will has to do with how much we can influence others. Willpower and persuasion and influence, those things muddle. So he's got a really strong chin, and then that divot marker brings us right into the attention markers. When we see a divot here, this is a person who handles attention well. They like attention. They can do really well with it. They can wield it well. It doesn't make them uncomfortable typically. And in some capacity in their life, attention is something that they are able to work with. The other attention marker that we see are these lines right here, which are kind of like dimples. And so these, again, are attention markers. When a person has dimples, and the more dominant these are, and the more we can see them, the more influence there is. And every time I see my chipped tooth, I'm still not used to it. It gets fixed next week, but it's funny when I look in the camera. Anyway, he's got these lines here, but these attention markers also bridge into the death mask, which is where the cheekbones are usually dominant. And then we're also going to see some hollowing here. And when we see the death mask and there's a more skeletal countenance to the face, anytime a person has a more skeletal countenance, this relates to the death mask metrics, which means a person has one foot in the material and in the immaterial. They typically have a strong death instinct or don't have trouble dialoguing with death themes. So again, we can sort of start to see these things all layering into Charles Manson's life in terms of how he lived and what he did. But I think the thing that when I look at Charles Manson, the thing that catches my eye is the Shen. It's like all of these things with those eyes start to really paint the picture for like the life that Charles Manson lived. So, again, kind of spooky. The last thing I'll touch on are the temples. He's got really hollowed temples. So in a number of pictures here, I'll cycle through a few, but you can see this area here. It's like these big kind of like cavern-like, or like a not a cavern, but like just that big divot. It's almost like a carved out volcano. There's just this like crater like quality to right here. And so this area, when I was studying with Lillian Bridges, my late teacher, she used to talk about this area. The more full it is, okay, when the temples are very full. This area, when they're full like that, that means the person is present. They're embodied in what they're doing. They're present with what they do, and they can be grounded in everyday reality and feel pretty good there. When they're hollowed, just the inverse is true. It has to do with a desire for altered states that can come through drugs, that can come through lots of different things, but altered states. That means being maybe very manic for a period of time, or being very angry and then being very calm. It's these big fluctuations, but being in an altered state, kind of getting away from that central equilibrium of peace. So I'm pretty sure Charles Manson had some pretty intense dialogue with drugs and whatnot. And so these big hollowed out features right here in the temples points to that desired for altered states. So, there's a lot here. Charles Manson was very charismatic. And with these attention markers, big dominant cheekbones, which relates to bossiness and telling people what to do in order for structure. If you think about Charles Manson, he was a cult leader for these people, led them into and orchestrated some very violent murders, and was sort of the mastermind behind this. So he's got this charismatic, toxic, cult-like follower features. That's what he's got going on in his face. So again, something to think about. When we do face reading and we look at someone who is pathological, it's good to do that, because face reading is about life nourishment and life preservation. And part of that, unfortunately, is understanding that there are bad people in the world, and you have to defend and preserve life by avoiding certain people. And this is just sort of a case study in that, looking at someone's features, putting them all together and saying, hey, I could probably pick better company. So That's what I've got for Charles Manson today. If you guys have any questions, please let me know. And if there's someone else you'd like me to read, please let me know. Thanks.